The power of the towel and the basin. The traditional leadership model. For centuries, we have defined leadership by power, status, and control. The leader sits at the top of the pyramid, giving orders and being served. But this model is outdated. Today's story, about Jesus washing the disciples' feet, completely overturns the definition of leadership. This is the historical moment that established servant leadership, a model where true authority comes from humility. Absolute humility. At the Last Supper, while the disciples were arguing about who was the greatest, Jesus performed an unexpected act. He, whom they called Teacher and Lord, humbled himself to the position of a slave. He took off his outer garment, tied a towel around his waist, and began washing the feet of each one of them. This act was a deliberate affront to the social status of the time. It forced the disciples to confront their own arrogance. The first lesson: servant leadership demands absolute humility, a willingness to perform tasks that others consider too menial or beneath one's station. Redefining authority and purpose. Jesus did not relinquish his title as Teacher or Lord. He used his supreme authority to establish a model of service. He redefined authority not as a means to dominate, but as a means to uplift and empower others. The purpose of this action was to teach them the nature of the kingdom. In a modern organization, servant leadership means ensuring employees have everything they need to succeed. The CEO's role is not the one who commands, but the one who clears every obstacle from the path of the employee. Application. In the modern corporate environment, servant leadership means serving from the desk. The manager dedicates time to boring tasks like eliminating bureaucracy, resolving internal conflicts, and providing training resources. Empowerment mindset. The goal is not for employees to submit, but for employees to grow and reach their highest potential. Empowerment. Culture of humility. Being willing to take responsibility for failure, not blaming employees, and sharing the glory when successful. To become a great leader, you must ask, what am I doing to make my team's work easier and more effective? That is the lesson of the towel and the basin. Humble yourself to lift others up. A masterclass in data analysis and evaluation. The data collection problem. In the world of business, science, and research, we are drowning in data. But data collection is only the start. How do we transform that chaotic mass of information into valuable insights? Today's story, The Parable of the Dragnet, is a surprisingly ancient model for the modern data analysis process. It teaches us two vital lessons: patience in collection and the necessity of final evaluation. Gathering all the data, casting the net. The parable begins with fishermen casting a great net into the sea. This net is designed to gather everything, indiscriminately. When they pull it in, the net is full. It contains good fish, valuable data, bad fish, irrelevant junk data, and even seaweed in mud. This net casting phase teaches us about inclusivity in information gathering. Patience. The fishermen had to wait and work hard to pull the net in. Similarly, gathering quality data requires time and effort. You cannot rush the process. No premature judgment. They didn't stop midway to discard every bad fish. They accepted that the net would contain both valuable and non-valuable items. In data analysis, this means you must collect the full dataset first, not discarding outliers too soon. Going ashore, sorting and evaluation. The decisive moment is not when the net is pulled in, but when they go ashore to sort. This sorting work is the very process of analysis and evaluation. They carefully separate the good fish from the bad fish. In analysis, this is the step where you perform data cleaning, remove errors, identify key variables, and categorize core factors, good fish, from noise, bad fish. The lesson here is about proper timing. The sorting only occurs once all the data has been collected. Similarly, critical decisions, project evaluations, employee reviews, or assessing a relationship need to be postponed until you have a complete, comprehensive, and calm perspective. Application. What is your dragnet today? In personnel evaluation, Give a new employee time to gather full data on their performance, attitude, and commitment, casting the net. Don't make a judgment based on a single mistake, one bad fish. Sorting only occurs at the end of the evaluation cycle. In business decisions, when considering a new market or a major project, gather all the information, both the good news, good fish, and the risk warnings, bad fish. The decision should not be made while the net is being pulled, but when the data has been analyzed on the shore. In personal development, your life is full of experiences, good fish, bad fish. Don't try to discard them immediately. Be patient in accumulating experience, and then, in moments of quiet reflection, sort the valuable lessons and discard the unnecessary regrets. The life-changing lesson of shared burden. The unwilling stranger. In life, we are often careful to avoid the troubles and burdens of others. We're busy with our own affairs. But what happens when you are suddenly forced to pause and carry the pain of a stranger? Today's story of Simon of Cyrene is a lesson in compassion that comes from the least expected place, coercion. It teaches us that the act of helping others, even if it starts with reluctance, can be a life-changing moment. The core action. The role reversal. Jesus was carrying the cross to the execution site, but his strength was exhausted. To ensure the execution proceeded quickly, the Roman soldiers sought a strong man in the crowd to take his place. That person was Simon, from Cyrene. Simon was not a disciple, he was merely a passerby. He was forced. Simon was stripped of his autonomy and compelled to carry a burden that was not his own. The core action here is the acceptance of that burden. Even if it began with annoyance and reluctance, the moment Simon placed his shoulder under that wooden beam created a profound shift. It was essential aid. Without Simon, Jesus might have died en route. It was human connection. Simon and Jesus shared the burden in a moment of ultimate suffering. Compassion and transformation. The burdens of others are often what we run from, because we fear they will slow down or derail our plans. But the truth is, accepting an involuntary burden is the fastest way to develop compassion. Compassion is not feeling sorry for others. It is the willingness to feel their pain and act to share that burden. For Simon, carrying this cross was not a negative event. Later records suggest his family, his sons, became Christians. That forced act became a transformational opportunity for his entire family. He received an eternal blessing from a temporary burden. Application. In modern life, what is the cross of others? In the workplace, it could be a colleague facing personal difficulty who needs you to shoulder some of their workload. The Roman hand might be your boss or a company emergency, forcing your participation. In the community, it is a friend who truly needs an empathetic ear, or a family member who needs financial support or medical care. View these unexpected burdens not as interruptions, but as precious opportunities to practice compassion. When you volunteer or accept the burden, you not only help others overcome their pain but also discover new strength and purpose within yourself. Don't run from the cross of others. Sometimes, that very burden is the path to your greatest transformation. Today, what cross has been placed before you that you have tried to avoid? Will you accept that burden as an opportunity to develop compassion like Simon of Cyrene? Share your goal to help others in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next insightful lessons. See you again soon.